A very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from, and welcome to this week. Um, I want to start by really acknowledging what all of you have done, and I have picked a conversation with most of you, and some of you had very lengthy discussions. And the one thing that I want to commend you is the discipline of doing the work of a SPO, particularly as we delved into the career pillar. And we gave you four tasks that you're supposed to undertake. You're supposed to visit the business that has been around for the longest time possible, study it, and then think about what recruitment in that space would look like. The second activity, in no particular order, that you had was also to spend time with an invisible worker, somebody who's kept on doing the same kind of work. They don't have a contract, they don't have terms of reference, they are not on permanent and pensionable terms, but they've kept on showing up in that community for the same kind of work, raising other people's children, maybe probably taking care of the animals, probably being a guard somewhere for a very long time. What has that meant for their life? Thirdly, we gave you an opportunity to go out there and do a piece of work that involves getting a daily wage and then come and spend that money and see whether you are also able to save. And lastly, you to offer your time, not to provide professional services, but really do kazi ya mkono in a public facility. I've picked a conversation, and I know what I saw is that some of you were able to do all the four tasks, some of you did three, some of you did one, some of you are even lost. You don't know what is exactly happening, and that's just the curve. We will not stop, we'll keep on coming. When we gave you these tasks, we didn't give you any background, and we hope that this understanding is one that you'll pick with time on the lessons that you picked. Listening to most of you, what is very clear is that the deeper lessons, you went through the activity, but you still didn't manage to unlock the message that was being put across. So I'll speak briefly about it, and just to let you, perhaps as you sit and you reflect on it, then it will begin to make more sense. Now, as a young person who's been trained, you have lots of skills, capabilities, competences that have been developed, and therefore you need to put them into use. Now, some of you are going to get into the space where you're going to be employed throughout. Some of you are going to get into spaces where you do your own work, and some of you will find yourselves doing your own work, but also at the same time being employed. That requires a different skill set, or that requires a different mindset. One of the things that we hope you're picking from this sport journey is the power of consistency, showing up. And you've seen your village has been there throughout. You've seen what the Sunrise Achievers have told you about consistency. Even if you identified a very good opportunity, but you just didn't have time to be very consistent in showing up, doing that piece of work, it's never going to work. So people, as people say, form it a jeeper. It comes from the fact that you spend time, you wake up every single day, you have to keep on doing the same kind of work. So regardless of whether you'll be employed or you'll be self-employed, I hope that you remember that worker that you spend time with, that person without a contract. And you can imagine that somebody even without a contract has to spend time doing the same work 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and some of them up to 10 years, some of them even beyond that. That is exactly what they have been doing. What does it mean for you, even as you go to sit down and get employed? What are the skill sets that you need? I'm sure when you spend time to look at those people who have stayed in those spaces for a very long time, it had nothing to do with perhaps they were maybe the most educated, but it's how they kept showing up every single day. And regardless of what was happening around them, they still have to show up. That worker who has to keep on coming to work, even when it's raining, when things are so tough, they have to keep coming. Not that the boss was a very good person to work with, but because sometimes they just have to close their ears to what they are being told, and they are be available to do that work. Monday to Friday, week 1 to week 4, 1st to 30th, January to December, and they keep repeating it. They keep repeating it. I hope that you have a moment to reflect on what that means, especially as you settle into the world of work, because you will be required to go through the same kind of motion. And I hope that you've seen the discipline that comes with whether you are employed or you are self-employed. It doesn't matter. That business owner that you spend time with, for those of you who did it, it's very unfortunate if you didn't get to do it, because then we can force you, but you miss out, you not understand what we are talking about. Things remain very theoretical, but you've seen what this person has to go through, and sometimes they will not even give you all the information of what it takes for them to run that particular business. This is very different from someone teaching you about entrepreneurship in theory form. Oh, an entrepreneur is somebody who identifies an opportunity and comes up with an idea. I hope you're able to understand why that business has consistently kept that idea. What is it that they have done? You may have seen perhaps the owner is very tough, and that is maybe the reason why the business keeps on surviving. You probably have seen how the owners had to be there on daily basis, and that is why that business has survived. So I hope you pick the lessons of what it takes to run a business, because most of you're actually going to run businesses, because the kind of skill set and knowledge that you have, the opportunities and the problems that you've seen within the community present you with a perfect opportunity for you to find solutions. I was really moved by a story by one of you who's like, you know what, during this week I just went and prepared viazi and went to sell them at the school gate. And that is when I realized that business is not easy. And she says she sold what she had, but the math was never mathy. And she still didn't sell everything. She went back home and ate everything. But she would even say this with a tinge of humor. And when I asked Father, what does this mean for you? She's like, I feel that I could still go to do something as far as catering is concerned. She picked that lesson. It's not something to take for granted. I spoke to one of you and was like, my dad has been, it's like, I went from Jengo. It's like, so what did it entail? How did you arrive at going from Jengo? It's like, my dad has been in this masonry work, and that is how he took care of us. So I went and spent some time at Mjengo, and I earned 600 shillings, and I bought myself a belt. And I asked him, what does it mean for your dad? Did you buy mandazi? It's like, no, it didn't cross my mind. It's like, so just imagine that's what your children will feel like. They may never go back to appreciate what you did for them. And maybe they will never just remember, they will never just think that it's necessary. But, and has your mom ever told you about the struggles of your dad? It's like, yeah, she told me there's a time when my dad rode a bicycle for this distance. And when I can quickly calculate, that's a distance of around 120 kilometers. But the dad had to do it, because that is the discipline of getting things done. As you look at this invisible worker, people who have to do something because they have responsibilities, they are not always about it. They are not doing the work because it is the best. They are doing the work because they have responsibilities that have to be attended to. As you do the daily wage piece of work, it's trying to tell you how people must do something to have at least something at the end of the day. Now take it that this person has to raise their children, they have to send them to school, there's healthcare, because you came back and all you did, you spent that money doing the household shopping, which was not much. And I'm sure most of you who did the task, you still didn't manage to meet the daily needs. So what does it mean? As you think about planning for your money, which is the next conversation we're going to have, as you think about the dreams that you have, the 20% was so tough. I know for some of it was so tough. So someone was like, you know what? I took care of our animals because the farm worker was not around. I actually asked him to go away. And my dad paid me 150 shillings. Just imagine 150 shillings. And this is what you have to be paid for 30 days. and you have to raise a family because most likely the farm hand person was a man. So he has to take care of a family, he has children, he has a wife to take care of. He has to keep on doing it and ask if this lady saved the 20%. She's like, yes, I actually managed to save the 20%. Like, keep it. You need it in the coming 1 week. And actually, you're going to need it. It'll be tougher for you to understand what these things mean. So I hope you understand that even within the career space, there is the question of choosing which line you want to take. And it has to come from understanding the problems that you've seen in your own community. Because these problems cut across everywhere. There's no community that doesn't have similar problems to yours. As you're spending time to see how children are going to school that morning, as you're looking at the skill that you began practicing with your own hand, it tells you something. And it could be something that you craft out of that consistently, doing it the way you've seen those sunrise achievers doing it, the way you've seen that person twice your age, that person 3 times your age. When you sat down with them, or as you're planning to sit down with them, they're teaching you something about consistency. So you're able to understand that it's not just about the skill that you go trained in, it requires much more. And those are what you call functional skills. As a young person, you need functional skills, and that is what will keep you going. I hope you've learned the power of mentorship because that helps you to understand that mentorship is not a one-off thing. You need people to hold your hand throughout those 7 contacts that we kept on talking about. You will need them across your life. And most important now, as we move into the subsequent week, where we're actually going to spend time to look at life as an integrated piece. And that's where we're introducing the financial pillar as the very of the last pillars. But it doesn't mean that it is a weak pillar. The 7th principle of life as an integrated piece is not just about looking at all these things, but there's a way in which money communicates your level of integration. How do you understand money? The traumas that come with money, or the way you understood money from your family, how it's been presented to you, those of you who struggle with the 20% to save it. This is now the time now for you to carefully look at what it means. But as we walk into it, there is one thing that is very important for you to understand. The decisions that you're making around integration are so critical, and they're going to play out back to your personal value system as well as your family. And as most of you are, because you're young, most of you don't have families. That is where everything comes to play together. So within the integration principle and money as a pillar, we're going to look at the issue or the role of a spouse in your life. That is the one single most important decision that you're ever going to make in your life that will either make you or break you. And the different times that we refer to as the different seasons of building. We are not talking about stages of a business. We are talking about stages of building. Because all that we're looking at integration is about understanding wealth. How do you build wealth? Because that is for sustainability. And that's the very essence of leaving a legacy. So we're taking time to go deep to understand what it means to build wealth and preserve wealth. What does it take? And the role a spouse is going to play in your life to put that across. Because if you don't get it right, you're going to have a lot of problems. And I hope that during this session, you have got time to reflect on perhaps whether your grandfather was building wealth or whether your grandfather's wealth was evaporating. You'll be able to understand why the choice that your mother made to get married to your father was a stupid decision or not. There are no two ways about it. Some of these marriages are purely by coincidence. That's why we have a lot of mediocrity within the societies in which we live in, because people don't just spend time to understand who is it that they are getting married to. And yet sometimes it's too late. In most cases, it's absolutely too late just to correct it. So we're asking you able to make important decisions at a very, very young age. What does it mean for you to live, to identify the right person that you need to live with in your life? So we actually unravel that mystery in the coming 1 week. How do you know that you're making the right decision or not? We're going to spend also a bit of time to introduce you to what we call model families. What does it mean? Families that have kept it working for hundreds of years. Are they there? What did they get right? And what does that therefore portend to you as a young person? We ask you to keep the discipline. Because at the end of the day, this is now where everything comes together. So this week asks you to put together everything that you've been doing right from week 1. Everything that you've had to do right from the induction time. Everything that we had to talk about and to understand the philosophy of Live Legacy, to understand the philosophy of living a fulfilled life, to understand the philosophy of a balanced life, and most importantly, to understand the philosophy of adaptability. Money is the one way through which you will express your values. Money is not just about earning your money. Money is not just about expensing the money and investing. Money is a deeper issue. And that is the kind of conversation that we want to welcome you in. So that in the next coming days, you're able to make a decision on whether you want to be part of phase 3 of this process or not. I invite your presence, I invite your time to deeply engage with this session, to deeply engage with this coming week. And if at all there's anything that is still pending that you haven't done, reach out so that then we can support you to be in a position to integrate everything all together. You can do week 5 work if you haven't finished week 2 work. You can't do week 3 work if you haven't done week 1 work. Mine is to say that it's been great going through the 6 pillars and the 7 principles that we've covered in the last couple of weeks. And I look forward to those who will be transiting to phase 2 on how we can engage deeper on how to see these things in a practical sense. The journey just becomes. The journey is starting. And for those who wish to now disembark, we'll also give you an opportunity in the next coming 1 week for you to gracefully transit from the program so that then you can move on with other things that perhaps will serve you quite well. I look forward to seeing you and to support you in whatever pathway you will take as far as the sport is concerned.